Welcome back to another episode of The Conversation. I'm New Toe. The conversation, we're talking to different politicians to kind of educate the community on what's going on. I know we're talking to candidates, but I want to switch it up a little bit because I think this is such a important topic. It's to be frank with you, it's very personal to me, very personal to the people working on the new production staff. It's the education bill, and here with State Rep Rita Mendes, and Rita, you've just been such a accommodating person throughout the last couple of years, whether it's city council, state rep. I just first want to say thank you. You've just been so supportive. I just appreciate all your work you're doing for the city, the Commonwealth, and supporting our documentary work.
Thank you so much. It's always so nice to be here, and I enjoy talking to the community and letting them know what is going on. There's always so much going on, and it's always so busy, and I know that people may not be as informed, so I always appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to the community.
Absolutely. Last time we might have saw each other before that, but last time we saw each other, in, I guess, in official capacity was at the State House in February, and we're talking about the education bill, and we're really blessed to have a bunch of state reps and a couple of senators there speaking about that. And we showed the documentary IMU, and IMU, for the viewers who don't know, is a documentary that talks about immigration in America and kind of how can dreamers navigate. And we had a story of a student named Eric Hernandez who just kind of navigated about how he's able to go to school and maybe get some financial aid. And they're talking about an education bill and things like that. That bill has since passed. So I kind of want to focus it to Brockton. Um, what is the education bill? What is in that bill, and how can it benefit students specifically in Brockton? Obviously, it'll affect everyone in the state, but I just want to focus on Brockton for this sake.
Yes, there's so many bills that now in education, and I'm working on a few different ones. And the one that passed is the in-state tuition bill, which allows undocumented students to be able to attend um, college and education and still be counted as residents of Massachusetts, which they are residents of Massachusetts. But I'm also working on a very important bill that really directly affects the communities of Brockton, which is I filed the bill that for our Brockton students to be able to attend a community college free of charge. So we had the Mass Reconnect, which applies to those adult learners that are 25 and older that don't have a community college or 2 years education. They'll be able to go and attend for free. That was major that we just passed. The governor really put that as a priority. And also the Brockton schools now offer the dual program, which they are able to go to high school and also attend college classes and be able to possibly graduate with their associate's degree and their high school diploma at the same time. What leaves the gap is when they're out of high school, they graduated from high school, and they're not yet 25. So that leaves that gap. So I put in the bill, I filed the bill to allow those kids to still be able to attend community schools, Massasoit or other community college, and be able to do that free of charge because we need to empower our students to be able to attend at least the 2 years degree and be able to do that without incurring debts and costs and so expensive. So that is something that I'm currently working on and I'm proud to, and I think that there is a push and a momentum for that at the State House. There's a promise that we are going to be doing community college free of charge, possibly soon, the next term around. So that's something that I'm currently working on at this point.
I think I think it's so important because Brockton is really, I mean, Brockton, New Bedford, Lynn, Lawrence, very similar cities, where there's a high immigrant population, and being able to service those different people is huge. But you really, I think what makes you so special as elected official is that you kind of lived that story. Just talk
Yeah.
about and you really seen spoke at the Massasoit commencement. This talk about that story of of coming here, coming to America, and that American dream and the new civil rights. I guess is education, right? Is being able to have equal opportunity. Let's talk about how um, give the viewers a perspective of your story of you coming here.
Every time when I share my story, it's so powerful because I still can't believe everything that I've been able to accomplish. And that's also another bill that that I filed, that I co-sponsored, and I'm working very hard, is to allow more diversity in our schools and educators, because at this point we operated with the seniority rule. So the last one in, it's usually the first one's out, and that's especially for Brockton. We are in crisis, as we all know. So there's a lot of layoffs that already happened, and possibly even more layoffs are going to happen. So we know that those educators of colors that we tried so hard to put them in our schools, they are most likely the ones mostly affected by these crises that when we have in our education system. When I was in Brockton High School, I was one of those kids that was facing crisis, that I was really pretty much homeless. I didn't really have uh, any guardian or anybody in my life that really could care for me.
Hmm.
And I was only 16, and I was at the point to having to give up my education so that I could work full time. I was already working at Dunkin' Donuts until 11 o'clock or midnight whenever it closed. So it was my Spanish teacher that became also my guidance counselor that took interest in me and saw that this straight A student, someone that always does well, is facing some troubles in her life, and really took that interest in me, was the only person in my life that I could trust, could really tell her what was happening. And she went to the point that she could even take me to come live with her if I didn't find a housing or a place to live, and really was able to help me every step of the way, not only to graduate from high school, but to help me get into Massasoit. And I was able to attend Massasoit and graduate. And today, to say that I'm an attorney, that I practice immigration law, and I'm also a state representative, a city council representing the city, none of that could really have ever happened if I didn't have that one teacher, just one in the entire Brockton High School system, that look at me. So I know now I make a priority. I do my tours at the Brockton schools, and I talk to the students. And when I tell them, I share them my story, they still can't believe that I speak another language. So they like, can you just say something in Portuguese to me? And they're like, what language do you speak at home? So they are just so shocked to see someone just like them to really be where I am today. And it gives them hope. You should see their eyes. It really lights up, because they like, if she could do it, I can do it. And that's what having representation, it really matters. So it's very powerful. So this bill really allows the superintendent of the schools to look at other things, look at language, look at that educator, if it has like a really big representation in that school, maybe some other factors that should be taken into place, not just seniority alone. So that's something I'm very proud to support.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I just want to back up and just be clear for our viewers listening. 'Cause I think this part is important. So for this education bill that just passed, so a student, no matter what their status, they are they're going to be eligible for some type of financial aid in within the state. Okay, and they also are eligible for is it free tuition as well as everyone else?
That is correct. So
Okay.
they are eligible to in-state tuition.
Mm,
So what it allows is for them to be treated as residents of Massachusetts.
okay.
So it's not before out-of-state tuition. We all know how expensive it is. So this way they would be able to be treated as a resident. So they have to show they've been living in the state at least for 3 years, and graduated from high school, or having the regular GED, however the requirements are, but they'll be treated in
Okay.
state tuition. So that's the big difference. And that was one of the first things when I came to the State House, that I wanted to see it pass, because I know how important it is. I work with special immigrant juvenile students, and those are the abandoned kids. And I work with them to get them their green card. But until then, there's always that gap.
Right.
And also for our DACA students, they have work permit, they've got Social Security, but then they when they come to enroll in a high school, in a college, then at that point they're treated as outsiders out of the state. So this way is in-state tuition if they live in the state of Massachusetts, which is huge. Not many people thought it could pass, and it passed, and I'm very proud of it.
That's awesome. You should be proud of it. I know
Yeah.
a lot of senators and state reps worked on that, which is really dynamite. Just kind of looking forward ahead, and obviously Brockton had some shortfalls with the school budget. How's the school budget look on the state side? for Brockton going forward. I know there was an opportunity the last couple of years to increase the budget, and they kind of changed I guess the method of how they give inner city schools money. Can you guys just educate us on how's the budget look in terms of the state providing money to Brockton? How's it looking for next year?
Hmm. That's a good question because the Student Opportunity Act is fully funded, so
Mhm.
we are getting supposedly we're supposed to get. The problem is enrolling kids in our school,
Right.
and it's counted as of October 1st. That's the date that the DESE, the Department of Education, looks at our numbers, and then we get funding based on the number of enrollments that we have as of October. And the problem now that we have, it's a lot of migrants and kids coming, and then they don't live with their parents. Maybe they live with their uncle or brother. So how are they able to enroll in school? It takes a process for them to be able to show that they have a responsible, a guardian or someone to be watching them. But they don't have a lease or a placement or a home. Then you gotta show that you live in Brockton in
Right.
order to enroll. All of this, it keeps them in a waiting period and a delay. And we're talking with the school superintendents to make sure we cut the red tape and making sure that these kids are able to enroll in school right away. So that we can have our numbers because eventually they're going to start school. But if we're delaying, if our numbers are down, then that's where the problem is because it's based on the enrollment, and that's what happened for the last fiscal year. And now we don't know yet how it was in October. So we're hoping that once we get the numbers, we're there and we're going to be fully funded for the actual number of students that we serve in our school system.
So yeah, so I could definitely see that as a gap is not having a true number of how many students we have in our school system, and that translates to how much funding we get in the state house. I think that's
There's
very
been
interesting.
asks to look at that number again in January,
Hmm.
but it just becomes hard for the governor and the budget to plan. So that's why we're still with the October date. But if we were able to look at it again in January, just kind of, there would be tremendous help. But
So definitely, but the Student Opportunity Act that has overall increased funding for our inner city schools
yes,
throughout the whole state.
yes, so we're fully funded.
Okay.
Now we just have to work with the numbers of the enrollments and making sure that we're serving and we're getting paid for the correct amount of students that we have in our school system. That's been the biggest because there's been this delay and these different things, especially with all the migrants and the students that are coming that they don't have maybe a home or placement or address or anything in their names to prove that they're actually living in Brockton. So it's been a challenge, and we're working directly, very closely with the school department so we can address these issues.
Absolutely, I think just on a larger issue, it's an issue that's bigger than us. Is having those migrants have an opportunity to find resources to get a path to citizenship, or a path to being able to kind of be productive. Because I know there's a lot of students who are dreamers and what have you. Just having that path of where to go and navigate. When you're coming from another country. I think it's a situation. I know the mayor talked about having an immigration office in the city, which is huge. So I think little things like that it's tough to navigate. Um, any other things that are going on at the state house that are coming down the pipeline that we should know about? And we're coming up on about 2 minutes left. Is there any other news that we should be on the lookout for?
The Thrive Act, that's been huge to eliminate MCAS as a requirement
Mm.
for graduation. I think there's been so many people working on that. Looking forward to see other methods to evaluate students and not just one standardized test. I think it's important to say that we have different methods of learning and different methods to testing these students would be great too. So we strongly support that. We're looking forward to see that happen in Massachusetts.
Well, listen, you're always welcome on the podcast. Always a wealth of information. Appreciate everything you do for our city and for the state. So that's Rita Mendes, our state representative. So just want to say thank you so much, and be sure to tune into the podcast for more conversation with different politicians. Figure out what's going on in the city. That is it for this episode. We'll see you next time.